I got the job of making Mimic 3 based on my last student film at NYU, which was a feature called Soft for Digging, which played at the 2002 Sundance Film Festival.
Which is a 74-minute feature that was virtually dialogue-free. It was a really, really creepy, very inventive movie.
And met a producer there who then brought me in and asked if I wanted to make Rear Window with giant cockroaches. I said, yeah.
You know, we had an initial idea for the story of what Mimic 3 was going to be, you know, just initial concept of a guy seeing things out his window.
Their concept for Mimic was based on Rear Window, so it was the idea of somebody watching a story basically played out as visually as possible. There's probably less than average dialogue in Mimic Sentinel because of that. So, and Soft for Digging's a horror movie. It's, you know, little dead girls and whatnot. Soft for Digging is an artsy horror movie or a scary effort film. I'm not sure. It's basically the story of an old man lives alone in the woods, witnesses a murder, and then can't convince the public at large that it actually happened. But because it's a movie without dialogue, it uses a lot of more both classic and experimental kind of methods of storytelling. So there's a lot of animation in it, a lot of sort of extended takes, a lot of basically just sort of visual storytelling.
He came back with the treatment. We loved it. He comes back with a script, and you know, here we sit today. You know, he was someone that definitely impressed us right away.
It was a very fast development. A lot of what appealed to me about Mimic was that they came to me in, you know, April or May and said, like, can we put you on a plane in August and have you shooting in September and have a finished feature film in a matter of months, which was energizing and great for me and sort of exactly what I was looking for. They gave me a lot of freedom in terms of what I was going to do with the script. There wasn't any requirement to carry on the mythology of the earlier movies. I didn't need to bring back characters. I didn't have to continue with anything past the basic history of what the monsters are. So we basically have an entirely new set of characters, and the only thing that carries over is the monsters.
There's always been an interest to see more of these creatures and what they're capable of. You know, with each movie, I feel like you see a little bit more of them, and they evolve a little more. And
so when they first told me that their concept was based on Rear Window with giant cockroaches, I mean, I guess my initial reaction was kind of thinking that's funny because it's just such a Hollywood, like, you know, Forrest Gump meets XXX kind of idea. But I think it works remarkably well in terms of the whole concept of, like, did I see a murder or not is now compounded, like, did I see a murder by humanoid cockroaches or not? There's a certain amount of camp in the concept of 7-foot cockroaches that want to destroy humanity. And this idea for a movie just sort of takes that and runs with it.
JT has a very stylized approach to filmmaking. He loves very specific images and you know, a very specific pace in his film. You know, there's very little dialogue, but the characters are still really nicely realized.
Casting Mimic Sentinel was fun. I think we were really lucky with the cast that we got.
We got extremely lucky with this cast, you know, and I think that's not only a testament to the script, but, you know, to JT as well.
The fact that we were able to find such talented people who could respond to the script and find something interesting in it that would make them want to come to Romania.
You know, we really made a point to try to find the right person for each part and to bring somebody who not only was just a talented actor, but somebody who had a persona, you know, something more to bring to the table.
Carl, the guy we found for Marvin, was, I think, a great find. But he was, you know, he's just remarkably talented. I was really impressed with the amount he was able to bring to the character. I mean, the amount that he saw in it, the amount that he was sort of willing to look for. The character of Marvin was actually originally a 13-year-old kid from you know, the middle of Queens, and that was one of the early script development things, is they wanted to make him a more identifiable character.
And you realize there's sort of an innocence to him, even though he's older and he's still living at home. He's still in his mind, I think, a teenager, a younger teenager. So it kind of takes that element of malice out of him.
You know, a 13-year-old who's stuck in his room all day is not as interesting as a 24-year-old who's stuck in his room all day and therefore is psychologically basically still a 15-year-old, which made a lot of his scenes with Amanda a lot more complicated, I think, and a lot more fun. I've always been an Amanda Plummer fan. I thought she's done fantastic work in really unexpected ways.
What the neighbors must think.
And then Lance Henriksen, somebody, I think anybody who grew up looking to see interesting people die on videotape is going to love Lance Henriksen. And, you know, I grew up on Lance Henriksen movies. It was definitely kind of a meme shift to have him show up on set one day and be like, tell me what to do. You know, we found Rebecca Mader to play the part of Carmen, which is, I think, probably one of the hardest roles to bring something interesting to in the part, because she spends so much time as an object. You know, her character is stuck behind a window across the building, basically being fetishized by our main character.
It's kind of like bizarrely kind of sexual, you know, in an interesting, quirky kind of way. I think it adds like a whole nother dimension, no pun intended, to the movie, you know what I mean? It's kind of sick, but it's kind of innocent at the same time, you know. She's not attractive in an overtly sexual way, but that just adds like an extra hint to it. And I think, you know, obviously most girls enjoy the attention, so she kind of finds it fun, and he's a handsome guy, and it's kind of nice that she is attracted to him, even though he's a little bit disabled.
It was fun working with Rebecca because, you know, we shot all of our special effects, pyrotechnic, explosion, bug killing people stuff in the first week. So Rebecca shows up on set and immediately has to get covered in blood and run around screaming.
Getting scared and having to scream and yell is like kind of slightly cathartic. Like after I've done these scenes, I'm like, woo! You know, like the hair's down and I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. It's really, really, I mean, acting is like the best therapy. Sounds cheesy, but it's true.
And then, of course, Alexis for Rosie was a huge find. She was somebody who I had never seen before, but when we saw her audition tape, was just amazed by, and was really happy that Dimension would let me cast such interesting people. This was also my first time really working with actors in terms of having actors who were speaking on camera, which I absolutely fell in love with. I mean, after, you know, like 5 days of the intensive dialogue stuff, I felt like I wanted to do nothing but romantic comedies the rest of my life, and a lot of that is probably just a testament to the actors being fun to work with and sort of intelligent, creative people. And cut! I really didn't know what to expect when I got this job, because when I made Soft for Digging, that was basically me and 6 guys in the woods with a camera. So I pretty much had to bluff my way through the first couple days of Mimic, just because it was my first time working like with an AD or working with any kind of formalized system. So, you know, the first shot, we do a couple takes and we get it. I was like, great, and the script supervisor asks me which one I want to print. I'm like, print, you say. Luckily, I just kind of grinned and nodded most of the time and got what I was looking for.
Now, imagine you're being hijacked and there's a man holding a gun towards you. Please don't shoot me!
One interesting thing about shooting in Romania, I suppose, was how difficult it was to get good sound. Because there was not only, you know, we'd have like flies buzzing the microphones, you know, the sounds of the city, but just wild dogs everywhere, which was something, you know, the two things people had told me about Romania outside of politics was like, you know, you don't go to Romania for the weather and look out for the wild dogs. And we were really lucky on the weather, but there were wild dogs everywhere. Luckily, most of them were incredibly kind wild dogs.
I don't know if you're getting this. These are our friends in Romania. They're quite friendly little fellas. They seem to roam. They're all over town. Very friendly. Though it's kind of intimidating to find yourself standing in a pack of 20 or 30. But pretty much everywhere you go, there's just dogs running around, and it was rough on us in terms of sound, because, you know, we couldn't really quiet them down, so take after take would get ruined by dogs barking in the background, but luckily we found a solution for that.
Strange plague has hit the dogs here at Castell. It's very worrying. But as you can see, the dogs are dead. Come with me and I'll show you where I'm at. Look here, here's another dead dog. It's strange, odd. A dead dog over there. Dead dogs at Castell. This is the most heartbreaking of all. Come on. Dead puppy.
I love the footage that we got of the pigeon, and luckily in Romania we found just a pretty brilliant pigeon wrangler, and it's probably one of our best special effects shots. But it's, you know, I don't know. I feel guilty about covering a pigeon in fake blood and making it flat for the camera, but I didn't do anything to a pigeon that I didn't do to a human. One of the producers here was absolutely terrified when he saw the pigeon footage, you know, thinking we were like torturing this animal to get the shots. But my one defense for the pigeon is that, like, I'm a good-hearted vegetarian, so I've built up that karma. And I can try to justify that at least we didn't eat any of the birds that we tortured. Not taking our budget into account, which was, you know, ridiculously low, I think our special effects department did a fantastic job. And Gary Tunnicliffe, with all the practical stuff, was able to achieve some really interesting things. And Gary was just such a hard worker. Like, he was really willing to do just about anything that had to be done.
Gary?
Yeah.
Gary, yeah, we gotta put the head on, man.
What?
Yeah, we're on our way, man. We're on our way. We gotta put the head on.
You need to film for the camera.
Okay, okay.
Right.
See, the great thing about Gary is that he's basically a Renaissance man. He's a utility man. You know, we see here with these movies, you have sort of a smaller budget and less to work with. Therefore, you got to stretch your dollar. So Gary's a great sport about sort of just getting in there and doing whatever he needs to do, whether that be, you know, driving the cars, makeup, hair, you know, the hotel PA, any number, numerous things. Thank you, Gary. Thanks. Any number of things Gary is up for doing at all times. So he really is probably the most valuable member of our team. Thank you. You know, it's a little cold. Sorry, it's not really.
Two ham and cheese?
Two. All right. Yeah, see? You got it all.
I do everything on this fucking film. Everything.
Gary and his partners, Mike and Mitch, portrayed the bug. They donned the rubber suits. When Gary's in his rubber suit, I only found out towards the end, but it takes him about half an hour to get in and out of the rubber suit. So once he's put it on, he can't take it off till the end of the day, because if we need him on set, we need him in 5 minutes, not a half an hour.
Gary.
So that essentially means that Gary does not go to the bathroom for 10 hours of the day, which I think shows remarkable dedication. You're doing great. Just keep it up. And then, you know, enhancing that with our CG and some of our entirely CG elements. Jameson Goey really pulled off some pretty remarkable things. I love the model that we have for the bug. You know, a pretty important effect is the transition from sort of trenchcoat Judas into the bug form. And it's something we could really only do with computer effects, unless it was like, you know, a flasher. And the way that we've been able to portray the bug with computers, I think, is fantastic. I guess sound is probably what is going to scare you more than anything else in a scary movie. It's just sort of the most insidious way to get inside somebody's head. You know, it's almost cliche to say that if you don't want to be scared in a movie, you cover your ears. I would almost say the only difference between a comedy and a horror film is the sound effects. Well, I think with horror movies in general, they're almost like children's stories. You're not forced to hide your devices. So there's certain beats within the genre that you have to hit, and you only need to deviate from that a little bit, and you can get some really interesting stuff. Once you say you're making a horror movie, you can do character work that people wouldn't necessarily accept in a lot of other genres. I love thinking about Mimic from Carmen's point of view, because she sort of walks into this family from the outside, and all the characters are just, you know, just out of their mind. You know, some of the stuff that we were doing between, you know, Marvin and Rosie sort of jousting between Carmen felt like the dinner scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. In a horror movie, you can make characters who are more gothic, more baroque than you would see in a straight dramatic piece without becoming comedy. I mean, for me, this was basically a paycheck. You know, I've got an ex-wife and a drug habit to support, and very little integrity. So yeah, I was happy to go to Romania and waste some money. And the gambling was good.
The hooker's cheap.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, when you're directing a picture, you pick a PA.